I'm Rick Edelman. On today's show, we'll look at how you might soon be able to take the ultimate out of this world trip. We're also going to find out why you could be broke even if you have money in the bank. And is life just about saving and spending? We'll look at the other side of money. All that and so much more on this edition of The Truth About Money.
This program is funded in part by TD Ameritrade. At TD Ameritrade, we support investors and independent registered investment advisors every day, providing access to tools, research, and educational resources that help you pursue your goals with confidence.
I'm Ed Burns. I've spent a lot of time around cameras. However, I've never actually swallowed one before. Till now. It's a camera the size of a pill that lets your doctor see inside of you. That's kind of awesome.
Technology is evolving. We believe the way to invest should evolve as well. A prospectus is available at 1-800-iShares, which includes investment objectives, risks, fees, expenses, and other information that you should read and consider carefully before investing. Investing involves risk, including possible loss of principal.
I'm Rick Edelman. Welcome to The Truth About Money, where I help you build a successful financial future. What's the best way for you to invest your money? To me, the answer is just dollars and cents.
Hey Rick, this is Brian Lincoln, and I would like to know what the best way to protect against inflation is.
I'm really glad you're paying attention to inflation. It's the silent killer of money. We have to recognize that the cost of living goes up every year, and that means the money that's in your pocket is worth less every year. So you have no choice but to get more money, right? Well, how do you do that? It's simple. You buy investments that have a tendency to grow with inflation. Bank accounts don't do that, by the way. If you put $1 into a bank account or a CD or a checking account or a money market, that dollar is always a dollar. Oh, it'll earn interest, but the dollar is always a dollar. Contrast that with assets that can grow in value. Stocks, real estate, for example. These two assets are ownership assets. They can grow in value. Artwork, jewelry, collectibles, things that you own, companies and businesses, things that can grow in value, that's how you offset the future impact of inflation. This message is extraordinarily important, not just for you because you're a pretty young guy, but for your parents and grandparents because it's retirees who don't get this message very often. Retirees are so focused on safety that they put all their money into bank accounts, government bonds, and the like, and then inflation does them in. Even retirees need to own investments that can grow with inflation. Even retirees need stocks, real estate, and similar kinds of investments. From Oscar-winning movie stars to TV personalities, we recently asked just one question, Celebrity Edition. What's the biggest financial mistake you've ever made?
I can tell you the stupidest thing I ever did was in the 1970s, a friend of mine came to me and said, you know what I think we ought to do? We ought to sell silver short, which means you're hoping silver will go down. Unbeknownst to us, it was the time when Bunker Hunt was trying to corner the silver market. And so we lost about 9 times more than we invested. That was the stupidest thing I ever did.
There was another stupid thing that was going on where everybody had stock tips. You know, the guy who shined our shoes in NBC Tower had stock tips, and the guy that was working in the kitchen was, you know, the busboy was giving you stock tips. And again, when stuff like that happens, you know, you probably shouldn't listen to anybody and something bad's going to happen usually.
Oh, I've had things like that. I certainly have had a credit card rejected, which was a riot because, of course, it was after 5 million credit card companies had been begging me to take out credit.
Lots of people make financial mistakes. A great way to avoid those mistakes is to ask questions to a financial expert. Here's some of that Q&A taped at the historic Weinberg Theater in Frederick, Maryland.
Hi, Rick. This is a question. I hope I'm not going to call it a vicious cycle, but it may be one, of savings, cash reserves.
Right.
And then we have this other little piece of debt over here on the credit card.
And how much is that little piece of debt?
I added it up to come here tonight. About $10,000.
Okay.
But
You know
here's
what's
the-
really, I'm going to stop you right there for a second. You know what's really interesting? She's mortified
I am.
at having $10,000 worth of debt. And even more mortified, I forced her to say it on national television.
This might make you laugh or not. This is the other piece of it. We have enough money in savings to pay off that credit card debt.
So you have enough money in savings to pay off the credit card debt?
More than enough. But the problem is psychologically, we then don't have that cushion sitting there.
So here's the point. You've got, can I ask how much you've got in sitting in savings?
And sitting in the savings, $27,000.
Okay, so you've
just
got,
in the cash savings.
so you've got 27 grand sitting in the bank and 10 grand in credit card debt, and you don't want to pay off the credit card debt because it'll dramatically reduce your cash.
Yes.
Okay. You know, just to give you a similar example,
I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's a big stressor to think of that going down, and then what if we have an emergency and then we don't have it, and then we have more credit card debt because we don't.
You're rationalizing.
Right.
You're justifying the existence of the credit card debt. What's the interest rate on the credit card debt?
Not too bad.
No, I'll decide whether it's too bad or not.
It's less than 10%. It's not horrendous.
So, no, I'll decide if it's horrendous or not. That's a rationalization. That's the brain resolving the conflict. Oh, it's okay. It's only 10%. What's the interest rate you're earning on the money in the bank?
Well, it's an investment.
No, just answer the question.
I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, yes, you do.
I don't.
Everybody tell her, what's the interest rate she's earning on the bank? 0.
But it's an invested, so it's not in funds.
You said you had some of the money sitting in
Yes,
bank accounts.
I do.
How much money is sitting in bank accounts?
Well, between the two, yeah. Well,
How much is
same.
sitting in bank accounts?
so in the one, 10, and the other one, the rest of it that's kind of.
So you got 10
rolling,
grand
yeah.
sitting in the bank. You have
Yeah.
10 grand in credit card debt.
Yeah.
The 10 grand in credit card debt is 10% interest. What's the interest rate you're
That's
earning?
0.
0. So you don't want to move the money out of that account because if you do, to pay off the credit cards, you won't have any money.
Yeah.
Guess what? You don't have any money now, you just don't know it. If you owe 10 grand and you have 10 grand, the total is 0.
But then you can add more.
No, this is my show. The problem is that the 10 grand at 10% interest is costing you $1,000 a year to maintain the credit card debt. You are earning 0 on the money in the bank. So you are giving away $1,000 a year for the privilege of being able to say, I have 10 grand in savings.
You're right.
You are rationalizing all of this. You're trying to manipulate the money in a manner that makes you feel good about it, rather than managing the money in a way that is good about it. So it's real simple what you need to do. Take the 10 grand out of that bank account and pay off the credit card debt. And I know what you're saying, wait a minute, what if I have a problem and I need a new set of tires? What if I lose my job? What if I have an unexpected medical expense? That's what credit cards are for. So you'll go use the credit card when you need it, not in case of. I just saved you $1,000 a year.
Thank you.
Which of these is not a reason to begin financial planning? A, to protect yourself and your family from financial risks. B, because you're going to live a long, long time. C, because you're planning to win the lottery. D, to pay for the costs of raising children. We'll be back with the answer right after this.
Can you imagine what it would be like to live in 0 gravity? Will booking a trip around the moon become as easy as booking a flight to Europe? You've heard of spaceflight. Well, astronaut and scientist Dan Barry believes the reality of space living is just around the corner. And as he explains in this week's Future Finance, there may even be a way for earthbound investors to profit from the final frontier. Dr. Dan Barry, is there a way for investors to take advantage of the opportunities that are either existing now or going to exist?
Well, sure. Well, to take space to begin with, there's a lot of commercial space flight going on right now. People are already investing large amounts of money on low Earth orbit and allowing, first of all, tourists to go to low Earth orbit, but eventually habitats and people to live there. We're going to sell a lot of one-way tickets to low Earth orbit. Think about, my background.
One-way tickets meaning they're not going to come back, they're going to
Right.
die, or they're
going to go and live the rest of their life there. Going is cheap. It's coming home that's expensive. We launch all kinds of satellites, and if you don't have to bring them back, the price goes way down. It's all about re-entry that makes things expensive. So if we can build the hotels and the facilities and space for people to go live there, we'll have a lot of people going and not coming back. And we'll build a whole society in space. And my background is rehabilitation medicine. I took care of people with severe disabilities, tremendous mobility impairment. Think of someone who's a high quadriplegic, say a C5 cervical quadriplegic, who has some ability to move muscles, but not a lot. That person goes to space and regains 100% of their mobility.
Because there's no gravity.
With your pinky, you can fly across the room. It's like you have magic powers. It's like you're Superman. And so suddenly you're freed from the mobility impairment on Earth. You don't have issues with pressure sores. You don't have issues with that sort of thing. You regain independence. Why would you ever come back? People with cardiovascular issues, where you only have a fraction of your cardiac output. Hey, guess what? Your heart hardly works at all in space because there's no gravity to pump blood again. So suddenly you're an athlete again. And we'll learn, how to live in those kinds of environments.
So the opportunity for investors to take advantage of companies that are engaging in these kinds of business enterprises certainly exists and will continue to in the future.
Yeah, we're going to have to see how these business plans work out, but there are serious investors that are already pursuing private space stations, individual flights to orbit, suborbital flights. In 10 years, you'll buy a ticket to go to space just like you can, arrange to make an expedition to the summit of Everest right now. It's fantastic.
And that's why you're excited.
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Dan Barry, physician spacewalker, thanks for your time.
Sure.
Which of these is not a reason to begin financial planning? The answer is C, because you are planning to win the lottery.
I hate to tell you this, but hoping to win the lottery is not a sound financial plan. Here's a better idea. Decide when you want to retire and how much income you'll want at that time. Then just create a financial plan to get you there. That's the only real way to make it happen. My job as a financial advisor is to help you achieve your goals. And that's why I answer your questions on this show, as well as at my seminars and, of course, on my weekly radio show, which also happens to be called The Truth About Money with Rick Edelman. We're creative that way. Fred, welcome to the program.
About a year and a half ago, I left a job that I had a 401k, and when I transferred to a new job, I actually went and took all that money and put in a variable annuity. It seemed like a good deal. Are there any negatives, and what are the positives with the variable annuity?
Well,
That's my basic question.
Tell me why you did it. What was the motivation, Fred?
Well, I went in and sat down with an advisor and went over several different things that I could do and kept reading, and for some reason, it just stuck with me to do the variable, and I went in and that's what we did.
Okay. It strikes me as an unnecessary investment that you made, in the sense that the big claim to fame of a variable annuity is that your money grows on a tax-deferred basis. But wait a minute. Your money was in a 401k. It was already tax-deferred. By taking the money in a 401k and moving it to an annuity, you put a tax-deferred bucket of money into a tax-deferred product. It was redundant. You didn't get any benefit out of it. You did get a downside, and that is the expense associated with that annuity. Variable annuities are among the most expensive, not the most, but they are among the most expensive of all investment products. Typically, those expenses can be 3 or 4% per year.
are there any pluses with the variable annuity?
Yes, there is a plus on the variable annuity, which could justify the investment decision you made, and that has to do with living guarantees and death guarantees. Brandon, why don't you explain those?
Sure. So, Fred, when you purchased the variable annuity inside of an IRA, it has some type of death benefit. All variable annuities do, basically, and there are different variations. But if the value falls and you pass away, your beneficiary is likely to get at least what you put into it. The second thing was something called living benefits, because within the last 5 years especially, the annuities have gotten, I'm going to use the word clever for lack of a better word, and they have made options known as a rider available that offer certain guarantees, living guarantees while you're alive, but they are optional. So we'd have to look at your specific contract and your statement to determine, did you opt for any of these? The downside is there's an additional cost if you did. So I think the next step, Fred, is to send your statement and contract to some objective advisor, not the person that sold you the contract, to look at the specifics to explain really what you've got. And one last important comment, and that is, in most cases, when you invest in the annuity, you're going to be locked in for a period of usually 5 to 7 years. So,
meaning for 5 to 7 years, there'd be a surrender penalty.
And they're pretty steep, correct.
So the lack of liquidity and the big surrender charges that occur are additional negatives. So would we recommend that you did this? Probably not. Would we recommend you get out of it? Maybe not, depending on the circumstances. Are you really enjoying the benefits of these guarantees that Brandon described? We would need to look at the contract to evaluate it in your particular case. The notion that you're dealing with a commission-based salesperson raises all kinds of red flags. There's a fundamental issue in the investment world known as conflict of interest. Both the UK and Australia have made commissions illegal. The only way financial advisors in those nations are allowed to be compensated is by charging fees, because it is only by earning a fee that eliminates the compensation motivation from the advice. What does that mean for you here in the United States? Real simple. The only way you can be certain that the conflict of interest doesn't exist is by using a fee-based, independent, objective advisor, and that's what I would recommend you turn to for a second opinion as to the validity and usefulness of the product that you've got from an advisor who earned a commission selling it to you. Let's head off to, where are we going? Gettysburg, PA. Judy, welcome to the show.
My question is a question on revocable living trusts. We do not have one. We are considering establishing one. But we had heard that if you put your home in the trust and something goes wrong and you're put into a nursing home, that the nursing home cannot come after the trust. Is that true?
Not really. They can't go after the home if you have a spouse who's also an owner of the home living in the home. But let's assume that you're not married and that you own the home solely in your name and you go into a nursing home. The revocable living trust will provide you with no protection.
Yeah, there's a big difference between a living trust, which Judy is asking about, and an irrevocable trust. So a living trust does not provide asset protection. There are a lot of good reasons to do a living trust, but to try to protect the money is not going to be one of them in Judy's case.
So talk with an estate attorney about a revocable living trust for management of assets and an irrevocable trust about the protection of assets. Two very different things. When you're flat broke, you can't even afford to laugh. Unless, of course, you're a comic, and then it's your job to make people laugh at your expense.
Part of being a comic, financially, you got to be a starving artist. You got to live on the road. You got to live in the car. And like the number one thing about being a starving artist is you work like half a day and you carry around a notebook and you jot stuff down and you scribble things. You know who else also does that? 6-year-olds. That sounds like the worst thing ever. That sounds like a day after daycare. I don't want to do that. I'll just keep a day job and have money and dinner. I like the finer things in life, like healthcare. By round of applause, who has a good job? Anybody got a good job? All right, a decent amount of you guys, Here's a question. By round of applause, how many of you guys got a job you hate? How many got a bad job? What do you clapped in front, what do you do? Oh, you don't have a job. That's okay. No, what do you, is your boss here? What do you do? You work at the State Department and you hate it? Oh, okay. See, you could say that. The people in here who clapped and who love their job, they don't understand that you have a privilege that no one else in this room has unless you hate your job. And that's you can wake up in the morning every day with the intentions on quitting that job. If you got a good job, you love that job. You're gonna wake up at 5 o'clock to go. If you hate your job, you wake up every morning like, I am walking out of this job tonight. I swear, if anybody says anything to me. You get to work and somebody's like, hey, what kind of sandwich you want? I quit. This is stupid.
We're talking about the truth about money, and I'm going to tell you, you want to know the truth about money, you should go to a woman. You should go to a woman, because every woman who runs a household knows the truth about money. I'm telling you, the Yenta that I'm dating, all right, she already comes up to me today. She says she bought a different hand cream because it was $1 less, and she got 1 ounce more. Do you understand that? That's how women think. I think we would all buy more stuff if it was cheaper. That's the whole trick to marketing. Just make it cheap. You ever go to a restaurant and they tell you the specials and you know everything is just expensive? The chicken cordon bleu and the duck and the pheasant. I don't need that, all right? You want to tell me the specials? Just come up to me and tell me the prices. That's how they should begin. The specials tonight are $14.98, $12.98, and $8.98. I'll have the $8.98. You don't even know what it is. Yes, I do. It's $8.98.
If you could ask a financial planner just one question, what would it be? Here's one a lot of folks ask. What is the biggest mistake that people make involving children and money?
They sacrifice their own financial goals or their financial retirement success in order to help their children. They might borrow against their 401k to pay for college because their child got into the perfect school. They might borrow against a retirement account or their cash reserves in order to help an adult child put a down payment on the house. What they don't realize is their time is much more limited than their children's. So they need to recognize that their financial security and their goals need to come before their children.
The best thing parents can do with young children is show them about money. When they're at the grocery store, show them how much different cereal costs, show them how much a candy bar costs. Give them an allowance and show them you need to save this much to be able to buy this toy you want.
As a financial advisor, I spend my career helping clients get from where they are to where they want to be financially. But there's more to life than money. And as my wife and business partner Jean tells me, money doesn't buy happiness. Here's her look at the other side of money.
The remedy of laughter has been around for decades. We've really been using laughter for a very long time to heal. So when the doctor told me that I should laugh for 15 minutes a day, I laughed. I mean, that's just a funny prescription. Preschoolers laugh 400 times a day, and adults might chuckle once or twice. We get in the mode of the day and we're trying to get everything taken care of. And you know what, if we could just step back a moment and look, there's a lot of funny moments in the day. The greatest benefit of laughter is just stress relief. It's just, oh my gosh, I got through it. And you know, sometimes at the most inappropriate moments, we are laughing. Sometimes we laugh at funerals, or sometimes we laugh when somebody gets hurt. But that's just our body responding and actually releasing some of the tension and the stress that we've just gone through. And just to, you know, not take ourselves so seriously during the day. So the old adage that laughter is the best remedy holds true today, as it has for decades.
So just again, just to get good audio level. Wait, let's have the cameras on. I'm grabbing myself.
Thanks, Jean. Some final words about this week's program that might improve your financial future. Astronaut Dan Barry says mankind's future is in space, and that creates opportunities for you, whether you want to live there or invest there. And if you feel good about having thousands of dollars in the bank while also having thousands of dollars in credit card debt, you're not fooling anyone but yourself. Also, you can refinance even if you have a foreclosure on your credit report, if your credit score is high and you have equity in your home. That's this week's edition of The Truth About Money. I'm Rick Edelman. See you next time. To learn more about the topics we discussed on this episode and a chance to ask your questions, visit our website at truthaboutmoneytv.com. And stay connected by liking us on Facebook and following us on Twitter.
This program is funded in part by TD Ameritrade. At TD Ameritrade, we support investors and independent registered investment advisors every day, providing access to tools, research, and educational resources that help you pursue your goals with confidence.
I'm Ed Burns. I've spent a lot of time around cameras. However, I've never actually swallowed one before. Till now. It's a camera the size of a pill that lets your doctor see inside of you. That's kind of awesome.
Technology is evolving. We believe the way to invest should evolve as well. A prospectus is available at 1-800-iShares, which includes investment objectives, risks, fees, expenses, and other information that you should read and consider carefully before investing. Investing involves risk, including possible loss of principal.